What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the world of cinematics. This is your boy Diego once again, and today I got a lovely film for y'all. A lovely, dreadfully sinful film. This is Candyman, a 1992 film directed by Bernard Rose, starring Virginia Madsen and Tony Todd. Alright, let's check out this trailer and let's get into this masterpiece.
What's behind the legend?
Listen, he's under the bed!
And most terrifying of all, come with me. What's behind the mirror?
He's here.
Candyman. You don't have to believe. Just beware.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Diego. We're back in this world of cinematics. You know what it is. So Candyman 1992 was just an amazing film in my eyes, and I'm going to show y'all or explain to y'all why this one hits so hard. It hits so good for thriller, supernatural horror. This thing is just, it's so good. It's a masterpiece. Directed by a British director, Bernard Rose. Originally based on Clive Barker's short story, The Forbidden, and this was released in 1985. It was published in Volume 5 of the Books of Blood anthology series. So yeah, this is a short story Clive Barker wrote at the time, and he actually made a couple of these short stories into short films before he made Hellraiser. So yeah, this was one of them that got a short film, The Forbidden, and the character in this short story is Candyman. Now this is a different looking guy than what's in this 1992 film. Bernard Rose kind of did his spin on Clive Barker's story here. So it's a different guy, but same concept, the same concept of, word of mouth horror, urban legend horror, folk horror, the kind of type that you hear a fable about. Maybe your grandparents tell you about a crazy guy in the bushes, and he still lives out there. He's killing people. That's this type of horror. That's the whole idea of this film. What it's based on is keeping people's name alive through folklore, through just stories being passed down through generations. Keep people afraid. That's how you keep these killers alive. And that goes for any of these serial killers that are praised in the media. In a way, they might be still alive even though they're dead. They've passed on from this earth or this flesh. Their story and their wickedness is still alive, so it's pretty interesting. Anyways, back to Candyman. Now, so the short story book was published in 1985 by Clive Barker, and the films he did on this short story were made between 1975 and 1978, and then they were finally released in 1998. So yeah, that's a bit about the background on this movie, how it got made. Now, in Clive Barker's version of the story, The Forbidden, Candyman is a white guy. He's just a tall white guy with blonde hair, kind of nappy, crazy hair. He's got yellow jaundiced skin, so he's some type of a diseased man. But he is also like a supernatural entity. He's summoned through, mirror magic, basically saying his name in the mirror, I believe. And Again, he's that word of mouth type, ancient urban legend type whore. And they called this guy Candyman, I guess, because he stinks something sweet, like maybe because of his illness he smells sweet, so they call him Candyman, right? Um, that's Clive Barker's version of this guy, you know. And yes, he does have a hook for a hand in Clive Barker's short story as well. So yeah, you got a tall white guy with a multicolored jacket, long hair, blonde hair, but yellow skin, again jaundiced skin, and the hook for hand. So he's not some type of creature who smells sweet. It's just interesting. I think I'll have to read this book. But yeah, back to the film. Directed by Bernard Rose, written by Clive Barker. Again, just playing, or just based on the fact that it's adapted from a Clive Barker short story, essentially. So Clive Barker's name is in there as the writer. Primarily, this thing was written by Bernard Rose, though. You know, he did his spin on Clive Barker's story, and he changed a lot. So it's very interesting and it's very good. We'll get more into that later. Produced by Steve Gollin, Alan Paul, Sigurd John Syvatson. And yeah, now I'll share a bit more about kind of the background information I found on this guy, or this legend. So obviously the book is just fiction, and same with this movie. This is not based on an actual guy with a hook for a hand. However, I did find, an American serial killer based in Texas, Dean Corll. He killed a bunch of teenage boys between 1970 and 1973 in Houston and Pasadena, Texas. He was aided by two accomplices, teens, David Owen Brooks and Elmer Wayne Henley. I guess, Dean Corll and Elmer Henley got in a disagreement. Henley ended up shooting and killing this psychopath, Dean Corll. But yeah, he was known as the Candyman because his family had a candy store growing up, and he would always give out free candy to kids. So there was a serial killer named the Candyman. Now, I don't think this guy has anything to do with, Bernard Rose film or Clive Barker's short story. But it's just interesting. I looked these things up, and this guy came up. So yeah, basically what he was doing, he was paying these kids, $200, which at the time in the 70s would have been quite a bit for an 18-year-old kid. $200 each victim, or each child they brought to the Candyman, Yeah, the victims are often lured with an offer of a party or a lift to one of the various addresses at which the Candyman resided between 1970 and 73. They'd be restrained by either force or deception. Each was killed by either strangulation or shooting with a .22 pistol. And yeah, once they got in this disagreement, and this kid that was working with the Candyman killed him. The kid admitted it, and they found all these bodies of these kids hidden in these. I guess they found a bunch in a boathouse shed. Then they found a bunch buried on the beach on the Bolivar Peninsula. And then I think they found some others in the woods. So yeah, it's just crazy, this guy. And at the time, all these kids were going missing, and nothing, like, they couldn't find what was happening to them. They assumed they were runaways, but nothing much got done. Turns out it was this guy and his minions kidnapping kids and doing god awful things. So yeah, that's the Candyman. Anyways, that's the real Candyman that was a piece of shit, and yeah, he died. But yeah, back to the film. Now in the box office, the estimated budget was between 6 and 9 million. It did 25.8 million in the US and Canada, and 32.9 million worldwide. So it did pretty well. Yeah, this thing is just a really good, historical story, or, word of mouth type horror. So it's definitely a psychological horror, a psychological thriller. But for me, I'd just classify this as a supernatural horror thriller, because it's based on the fact that this guy, Candyman, is some type of a ghost or a demon who, he comes out basically only when you speak his name, so he has to be summoned. And then if the legend's dying, he has to come back and kill to keep his name alive. So that's how he stays alive. And in the movie, that's how he explains that he remains eternal, So yeah, it's just a really great concept for a horror movie. And I love this one. Personally, I thought it was really good. So yeah, and then I'll mention that, in Bernard Rowe's adaptation of The Forbidden, herein, Candyman is a black gentleman. The story on him is that he was the son of a slave, and he was an artist, very affluent and talented artist, doing paintings. And then he ended up marrying one of the slave owner's daughters, ended up marrying a white girl and, impregnating her or whatever. And then these slave owners got mad and they chased him down. Lynch mob chased him down, sawed off his hand with a rusty saw. And then, to add insult to injury, they poured honey on him, and then they busted a bunch of beehives open and let the bees attack him and sting him to death. So quite a brutal, gruesome way to go. If there's one guy that would stick around and haunt some motherfuckers, it would probably be this guy. And that's also how he got the name Candyman, because I guess a young boy tasted the honey when they smeared him with it, and the young boy said Candyman. The crowd then seized the name and shouted it with gusto, transforming, this guy into Candyman. And I think his original name was Daniel Robitaille, I don't know. Yeah, now we're gonna get into a bit more of the film. Let me just go over the cast again real quick. Well, it's never quick when I go over the cast, let's be honest here. So, starting out, I'll mention Clara. She's at the beginning of the movie. She kind of is in this movie briefly, but I'll mention her. Clara, played by Marianne Elliott. She's basically the one of the first scenes where you see the Candyman in the movie, and it kind of solidifies his legend, or his horror, and she gets killed, and Candyman also kills the kid, I'm pretty sure. Now, Billy is Claire's boyfriend in the beginning of the film, played by Ted Raimi. Then I'll mention Jake. He's the young kid. This is the kid that kind of helps Helen in the movie to discover who the Candyman actually is, and if he's actually just a myth or if he's a real person. Jake tries to warn Helen that this guy's dangerous, but she might not think much of it because he's a kid. But he's a cool little kid, and he's seen some stuff. Then we got Anne Marie McCoy. Anne Marie, played by Vanessa Williams. Beautiful black woman. She's kind of the protective mother type who's trying to protect her baby from Candyman or anyone, trying to kill her or threaten her family. And she's actually one of the people in the film. I guess she heard her neighbor get killed by Candyman and she was scared. So she's living in that same building. She's tense. She's kind of on edge. She doesn't know what's going on with this killer. I forgot to mention Jake, the young boy. He's played by Dejuan Guy. And then Bernadette Walsh. Bernadette, played by Casey Lemons. Another beautiful woman. She's basically Helen's best friend, and she's her friend at college that she's doing this research paper with on urban legends. So she's in the film quite a bit. She goes to Cabrini Green, which is where this legendary killer hangs out. And really, she's kind of a more reserved and relaxed friend. She's not willing to go in the trenches like Helen is to get the story. She's kind of more like, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't want to get killed too. Then we got Trevor Lyle. Trevor would be the main character, the main protagonist, Helen's husband. He's a pretty funny guy. He's kind of like I'm pretty sure he's a college professor in the film, so he's going around, he thinks he's the shit. He's a bit arrogant and cocky. He's got multiple women in the film, so being a professor who's pretty young, you would, well, I'm not saying he's probably like 30 in the film, but you would probably have a lot of women to talk to, and a lot of women would be coming up to you and saying, hey, what's up? Anyways, and then we got Helen, Trevor's wife, the main character, Virginia Madsen. She's just absolutely stunning in this film. I think that's definitely a part of why this film was such a success. Beautiful blonde babe with gorgeous green eyes. Can't ask for much more. In a horror movie like this, I think she fits the role so well. She's kind of like an intellectual type girl. She's a college student. She really wants to get a good thesis or final project for her studies, and that's where she meets Candyman. She's looking to talk to people about urban legends around the neighborhood, in Chicago. And then she meets a janitor who tells her about Candyman, and the janitor says, well, actually, one of my friends, she says, yeah, I heard from a friend that the woman died and nobody came to help her because everyone was too scared in the building. Everybody knows the legend of this guy and what he'll do to them. So yeah, that's Helen Lyle, played by Virginia Madsen. I'm sorry, I think I forgot to introduce Trevor's actor, Xander Berkeley. So yeah, Helen is just, yeah, really great protagonist in this movie. I thought the acting was pretty good from her throughout. There was a few scenes where it was kind of cringe. Wasn't the best, but hey, what can you do? Sometimes not every scene is gonna hit in a movie, and that's okay. We still love our movies. We still love our actors, and the characters especially. So yeah. Next up, we got Tony Todd. Yes, playing the Candyman himself. Yeah, this guy, man, Tony Todd makes the movie. He really makes the movie. You know, a big black guy. I think he's 6'5" or 6'6". Built, you know, he's got that defined face. Scary, scary guy. And not just because he's big, but his voice, the way he talks, the way he stares at you, the way he stares at Helen in this film is just it's all so perfect. Yeah, so I mentioned the backstory on him. They sawed off his hand, so I guess he stuck a hook in there, you know, so he could murder people. Yeah, Tony Todd does a really amazing job as Candyman. Really, really brings this film together. As a horror villain, I'd say he's up there. You know, he's just got a certain real life demeanor and aura to him. You know, it feels like a real guy. This movie feels like it could happen in real life when you're watching it. It's just got that 90s nostalgia. You got Tony Todd as Candyman. Amazing performance. His voice. Oh, it's just so good. And another thing I'll mention, just because I thought of it, is the score in this movie is phenomenal. You know, the music is so good. The piano, everything fits well. Fits that dark, psychological horror vibe that really gets under your skin, makes your skin crawl. So yeah, I really appreciate the cinematics, the visuals in this film, paired with the music. So good, so good. Yeah, so this is Candyman. I was excited to share this one with y'all, and here I am blabbing on. But yeah, now we'll get into the movie a bit more. So yeah, Tony Todd, he was cast in this movie because his height, 6'5", and physical fitness, you know, big built guy. And I guess there was rumors of Eddie Murphy being the Candyman, but I guess Bernard Rose says that was never the case. You know, Eddie Murphy's a pretty small guy. I don't think he would be very scary. He's a funny motherfucker, though. Okay, now I'm going to explain a bit more about Cabrini Green. This is where, basically, the housing complex where Candyman haunts, you know, where he creeps. And Cabrini Green is a real place in Chicago. It's changed its name now. I guess it's called Cabrini Green Homes, but you know, back in the 70s, I guess it was built in 1942. The complex grew to include red brick mid-rises, whites, concrete high-rises, and then they had like the normal public housing. High-rise featured open galleries, intended to foster community, but which ultimately became dangerous unmonitored spaces. So yeah, I guess they built these things to kind of you know, house people, but there started to become a lot of segregation, and over the years, black people were kind of forced into these, you know, tight knit high-rise apartments, houses, and the white people would move out of these areas into richer, suburban areas. So I like this movie as a dynamic of racial tension, segregation, and just you know the slavery aspect of it, and all that. It's really interesting that the original story, The Forbidden by Clive Barker, was set in London, I believe, and Bernard Rose moved this story into Chicago, into the suburbs, or I guess basically the hood on north side Chicago. It says here, Bernard Rose chose Cabrini Green for its palpable fear, and to contrast the protagonist's affluent life with the chaos of the projects. So yeah, Helen is seen in this film as a richer white girl. She's got money for college. She's smoking tons of cigarettes. She lives in a very nice apartment. And yeah, this film blends the two worlds well. The rich, posh society in the suburbs, and then the broke, crime-ridden, gang-ridden slums, basically. And this rich white girl and her black friend go to the slums to try to get more info about this urban legend, which is kind of hilarious. I could see it. Some white girls are pretty stubborn. But anyways, yeah, the film used this Cabrini Green location to explore themes of racial inequality and social class. What else can I say? Yeah, this complex became a metonym for the public housing failure. It was home to loving families and tight-knit communities, but it was also notorious for gang violence, drugs, municipal neglect, and yeah, it was just, like I said, the town council and everything kind of became negligent on this housing complex, and yeah, things went downhill fast. Nothing was updated. Everything was falling apart. Gangs everywhere, graffiti everywhere. Yeah, gentrification, because this area bordered Chicago's wealthiest neighborhoods, Gold Coast and Lincoln Park. The land became incredibly valuable. They did demolish this in 1995. Currently, the area is now a mixed income community with upscale apartments. Only a small portion of the original 19,042 row houses remain. Sorry, 1,942 row houses. Many of which are currently in disrepair or abandoned. So that's interesting. What else will I say? I'm going to talk about the plot of this movie. So it's basically a graduate student researching urban legends. She accidentally summons a killer. And that's what's interesting too. She thinks it's just a joke. She says Candyman 5 times in the mirror in the beginning of the film, or basically the beginning to middle, and then nothing really happens for a while, or she thinks nothing's gonna happen, and then yeah, this guy does pop up, and he basically tells her, you're trying to do too much. You're interfering with my legend, with my lore, and now people are forgetting about me, or they're not believing I exist anymore. So now I have to shed innocent blood, and I have to come for you and take you. So yeah, it's another instance of fuck around and find out, basically. And in this case, it's just a dumb blonde, well, she's smart as fuck, she's in school, but she's kind of stubborn, daring, nothing much scares her. She thinks she's badass and she can put up with this guy. But it ends in her demise, unfortunately, for Helen. Helen. Yeah, she gets framed for murder because, again, this guy's supernatural, so really only she can see him and what he's doing. It's an interesting take on is the woman actually crazy or is this actually happening? But no, it's actually happening. He's a real demon or a real ghost, and unfortunately, she summoned him. Whether accidentally or because she didn't think it was real or whatever. But yeah. So she's framed for murder, institutionalized, and yeah, it's just a big mess for Helen. But she's hot as fuck, so who cares? She's awesome. Yeah, this film premiered at the '92 Toronto International Film Festival, grossed over $25 million in the U.S., as I mentioned, becoming a contemporary classic of horror cinema for its artistic direction and social commentary. Yeah, I agree. It's just so well done artistically. The writing's so good. The screenplay is phenomenal. The emotions are there. The thriller aspect of it there. The psychological aspect of it is there. And then yeah, the social commentary on segregation, gentrification, the hood. Black people versus white people. The slums of Chicago. Oh, I just love this film so much. So yeah, Candyman. What I really liked about this film, just again quick, was the music, the cinematography, the actors, particularly Tony Todd and Helen. Sorry, I forget her name. Virginia Madsen, yeah. Yeah, it's just a really great film. And another thing I really liked was just the story. This this idea of word of mouth horror, historical legend horror, folklore horror, or folk horror. I mean, it's just really interesting to me, and I think this film did a really good job of that. It's still a supernatural horror, but it doesn't feel like one. If that kind of makes sense. So. And yeah, just the style of '90s nostalgia, the cigarettes, the style of the hood, the slums in Chicago, and how these rich college students are mingling with the people in the slums, yeah, and the themes of as I mentioned, segregation, the rich versus the poor, the blacks versus the whites, etc. Really cool to me. And yeah, this film is just so well written, and the vibe is there. So yeah, I'd encourage y'all to check this one out if you haven't. It's really interesting if you're into supernatural, thriller type horror, psychological thriller type horror. But yeah, let me know what y'all thought of this one. This one's gonna get an 8.5 from me. Now on to the things that I didn't like or I thought might be done better, or could have been done better. So the only reason it wouldn't get a 10 for me is just some of the scenes felt kind of boring and dragged out. So it's kind of a slower going type movie. sometimes there's not a lot of action, but that's also a good thing because, a horror movie or an action movie doesn't have to be go, go, go all the time, but this one in particular I felt like was kind of dry at times. Best I could describe it. And then, yeah, the only other thing would be, I would have liked maybe to see more gore, more blood from Candyman, more legend on his status, more of his kills, or I feel like it could have been a bit scarier in that aspect. But no, overall, this one's really, really a well thought out movie, and I love it even more that it's based on a book by Clive Barker. The guy who directed and wrote one of my favorite movies of all time, Hellraiser, and Candyman. It's sort of a Hellraiser like movie. It's got a lot of the same elements. So like psychological horror, supernatural elements. Cute girl aspect, kind of adult horror, yeah. So it's really interesting, and another thing I really liked is how quotable Candyman is in this movie, and how he says, "Come with me, and we'll live forever. We will be eternal through these stories and this word of mouth, mythos or legend." So yeah, really, really good one. A really interesting, thought out movie for me. Let me know what y'all thought of this. This is Candyman, 1992, by Bernard Rose and Clive Barker. All right, thanks y'all. Thank y'all for being here. I'll see you next time. Peace.